You gotta, you can't come in. So can you hear me?
I can hear you very well, Winton.
Okay, so Roosevelt's laptop, for whatever reason, won't let him do audio, so he'll do audio through my phone.
Yeah, okay, that's fine.
We're gonna tag team, so you guys can hear me, okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, you perfect, Roosevelt. Perfect.
Okay, good. So the dish that I'm gonna prepare today, I call it a seafood quiche. But you can really do a number of things in terms of variety. So if for some reason you don't like seafood, or you prefer to have a different kind of meat, like my daughter asked me yesterday, you know, how about adding crab? I guess you could do that. I don't personally do it. It really depends on, you know, who's going to consume it and what do they like to eat. So today I'm actually going to make two varieties. I have one in the oven because mine is not as quick as Steve's. So I'll show you how I'll prepare it. We'll go through and I'll show you all of the ingredients. I did send those out ahead of time. So what I have, let's see if we can figure out how to get the camera on here. So basically, utensils that you use, obviously a cutting board, a very sharp knife. Congrats to my son-in-law who came this weekend and sharpened all of our knives so it cuts like butter now. Mixing bowl, stir, saucepan. Really depends on how much you want to make in terms of the size pan that you use, and I'll show you what's going to come out of the oven. I don't know what size this is, but it's one of the Pyrex saucepans, and you want it to be fairly deep because once you put it in the oven, the quiche is going to rise. Now, some people like to use the, what do you call that, the crusted pie dishes, and I guess you can do that. I personally don't use that because I'm calorie conscious, so I just go without the crusted pan. The very first thing that you want to do is coat the pan. So I have some organic, see if I can get that in, some organic Pam with olive oil. So you put a good coating onto the pan. That will prevent the quiche from sticking once it comes out of the oven. At that point, you're ready to go. So I'm using organic eggs. Again, the number of eggs will depend on the size that you want to make. In this particular case, I have 6 eggs. And so I'll prepare the eggs and the mixture that you're going to pour into the dish. So here we go. As I said, it's not as quick as Steve's because you got to give it about 40 minutes or so in the oven. But actually preparing it to go in the oven is fairly simple and fairly quick. Okay, thank you. So once the eggs are in, you want to give it a good mix. And this is where you're going to put your spices and your seasonings. Now, your seasonings really will depend upon your taste. What I'm planning to use now, oh, one more thing I got to get, will you hand me the half and half? So what goes, I didn't have that out because you want to keep the half and half in the refrigerator, just laying flat right there. Right. So simple half and half, about a quart for this particular mix. So you just pour that in. And I'm using about 3 cups of half and half. You'll see how that'll play in. And again, you mix it up real good. So now, once you've got it mixed in, as I said, you can decide what spices that you want to use. In this particular case, I'm going to use a little Old Bay. I don't always use the same spices. I mix it up, you know, kind of maybe what I have versus what I like. So a little Old Bay, a little Creole seasoning. Have a little slap your mama just to give it a little tang. I've used garlic in the past. And then here I've got some herb and garlic Old Bay. So add your seasonings into the egg and half mixture.
Roosevelt, that herb and garlic obey must be a South Carolina thing because I have not seen that up here in upstate New York.
Yeah, I didn't really want to show that to Ivan, but I had to because he forced me into it.
Your secret ingredient, huh?
So I got the recording, Roosevelt. I seen the spices.
One of the advantages of the garlic and herb Old Bay is it doesn't have black pepper, and there are people like my wife who we learned she's allergic to that. So I use this now on a lot of things. I'm going to be cooking a couple beer butt chickens later today. I've used the herb and garlic seasoning and curry, so I've gotten kind of creative in making my own marinades now. But in this particular case, just add it in. And again, your seasoning is to taste. You can use an onion seasoning. You know, I've done several things. So mix it in real good. Sorry about that. Getting a little messy here. But I've got my trusty assistant who's Johnny on the spot cleaning me up here.
Be Jane.
Jane on the spot. Okay, I'm sorry. Jane on the spot. Okay, so now this is the mixture that you're going to pour in once you've got your dish pan or your saucepan all set. All right, so now what I'd like to show you is kind of the vegetables that we're going to use. Again, you can use a number of different things. In this particular case, I've got broccoli. I'm a big broccoli fan. I've got some cut up spinach. I very rarely will use spinach and kale. I'll use two of the three, either broccoli and spinach or broccoli and kale. Kale and spinach are kind of in the same family. I'm a little heavy on the tomatoes, you know, diced up really small. And in this case, I'm going to use very few portobello mushrooms. The mushrooms do make a difference. There are people who have a mushroom allergy, but they're not necessarily allergic to portobello mushrooms like my daughter. I'm not going to add seafood into this dish, but it is in the dish that's about to come out of the oven. You know, Winton and Kristen are allergic to shrimp. So I'm just going to add shrimp in one little corner in this particular dish. But the shrimp is basically frozen and deveined, and you can see that I've cut it up pretty small. Cooked and deveined, I'm sorry. Cooked and deveined, frozen shrimp, cooked and deveined, and I've cut them up pretty small. So basically what you want to do at this point is take your pan.
We can let them know that we're not going to eat it because if we were, we wouldn't have them on.
Okay, I'll let them know later. And then just start adding your ingredients. And what you want to do when you add them is space them out pretty evenly. In the case of the broccoli, you can see here I've kind of cut it in half with so that it has a flat side, and you really want the flat side down as best you can. That'll help you with your spacing on your vegetables. So spread them out as evenly as you can. Next up is the spinach. You want to do the same thing. What you're basically trying to do is make sure that you cover the bottom of the pan. Next, I'll add the tomatoes. Again, here, if you wanted to do onions, you could do that, or chives, or kind of whatever your vegetable of choice.
Have you ever put fruit in it?
I have never put fruit in it. That's a good thought, but no, I have not done fruit. Okay, can you guys see how that's shaping up?
Yeah, looking good.
All right, next up are the mushrooms. Again, I'm only going to add mushrooms. Well, nobody's eating it.
If you're putting shrimp in it.
I'm just going to do mushrooms and shrimp on one side.
Mushrooms in the other one?
There are no mushrooms in the other one.
Oh, then go for it. Oh, but the other one has shrimp.
The other one has
Oh,
shrimp.
okay.
Add a few shrimp. As I said, the other one is pretty heavy on the shrimp. I'm a big shrimp eater. And then the last ingredient that you want to add is the cheese. Can't have a quiche without the cheese. And what I tend to use is the 4-cheese blend. Now this particular cheese is shredded a little thicker than I would normally use, but that's okay. You can get the fine shredded cheese, or if you don't like the 4 blend, you can just get sharp, whatever your cheese of choice would be. And you want to just kind of lay the cheese across the top. Yeah, I'm gonna take that out when I put the other one in. Again, I'm kind of heavy on the cheese because I like the cheesy look of the quiche. There you go.
Smells cheesy.
Yes, it does smell cheesy. Okay, make sure. Any questions? All right. So now we have our egg and our half and half mixture with all of our seasoning in. Now, I guess you could add seasoning to the dish if you wanted to, but I just don't do it that way. I put it right in the bowl, and then it's just a matter of just pour it in evenly.
That's looking perfecto.
And again, I used 6 eggs. Depending on how eggy you want it versus how cheesy you want it, you can adjust.
The eggs are what is going to cause it to rise, correct?
The egg and the half and half combination is what will cause it to rise. Now, one thing you want to look for when you get to this point, if you're bubbling over the edges, you've got too much in your saucepan, because you want to give it some room to rise. If it's done correctly, it should rise right to the top. And then obviously once it comes out of the oven and cools a little bit, you'll see it go down. But one of the things that I look for is kind of how high is it up on the edges, and you can see it's about halfway up, right? So just about perfect. All right. So this is what it looks like. I'm trying to get it. So, well, show it down. Yeah. Okay. So this is what it looks like before it goes into the oven. Now, what you want to do is just let that settle for, 10, 15 minutes before it goes into the oven. I got it. So I showed you what it looks like before it goes in. I've got one that is ready to come out, so I'm gonna move this to the side and bring the other one over so that you can take a look at it to see what it looks like, when it comes out of the oven. So here we go. And what you simply want to do is when you pull it out of the oven, you want to just make sure that it's kind of brown on the top and you don't have any, residue that your knife or fork goes in and comes out pretty clean. This one needs to stay in just a little longer, but that's okay. I'm going to show you kind of what it should look like when it comes out. Nice and brown in some areas. Again, I forgot to spray this dish, trying to get it in before the call, but that's what it'll look like.
Pretty, pretty.
Yes, very pretty. Nice.
Any questions?
Good. Looks real good.
It looks real good.
Roosevelt,
Yes.
this is Paulette. Now, if you wanted to make that ahead of time, could you take it like the one you just made? Could you sit it in the refrigerator for a period of time before you cooked it? Like if you were gonna make it early that morning and you needed to cook it for that evening or something, could you do that, or do you have to cook it right away?
No, you absolutely. So this dish, like if I wanted to prepare it the night before, you're right. I could set it in the refrigerator. I have a little sealed top that can go right over it, or you can cook it the next day. But you want it to be relatively fresh. So don't do it like 2-3 days in advance, but if you wanted to do it later that evening, you could.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Could you prepare those ingredients and put that in the refrigerator and then bake it later?
Yes, that's what we were saying. We could
Prepare.
Like I cut up the vegetables last night so that I didn't have so much to do this morning. But I'm gonna go ahead and put this in the oven here in just a few minutes. Let me give that one just a little bit more time. But as soon as it comes out, this one will come in and we'll be eating quiche for the next couple of days.
Some of
us, yeah.
Now, how long
Hey,
did
hey.
you say it's supposed to cook in the oven? How long?
So what I typically do is I put the oven on 350, and this size should be 45 minutes to an hour. Now, you could go higher. I just like to slow cook it. But that's what I do, about 350, and then depending on the size, anywhere 45 minutes to an hour. The one that's been in, I put in about 940. 940. I thought it would be done by now. It's almost ready. Just a few more minutes. So.
Roosevelt,
Yes.
put any toppings on it after you take it out of the oven, or you just eat it like that? Is there anything you add to it after it's cooked?
I have not in the past.
Go for bacon.
Yeah. But,
I like that.
Right.
but
Or hot sauce.
so what I'll typically, that's a good thought, because I usually will eat it with a few pieces of bacon or, a couple pieces of sausage, but I guess you could lay the bacon right on top as well.
Okay. It looks good.
It does. And I must say, so I've never tried to cook quiche, and I very rarely even taste it. But yours look really good, Roosevelt. So
Well,
I'm
thank you.
impressed. It looks good.
I know, when the guys come down to golf, this is a favorite of theirs. So I prepare a couple dishes. It only lasts a couple days. They have pretty big appetites. So, but this is a favorite of theirs. So.